Okay. Good morning. Today brings us to the last daf of Maseches Yevamos. We're going to start on the bottom of Kuf Chaf Aleph on the base, 3 lines from the bottom. Hahu Ove Kochavim, there was an idolater, Dahave Ka'amar El Yisrael, who said to a Jew, Kitol Aspasta Vishadi Lechivai Vishabasa. He said, cut down this aspastas, this vegetative growth that animals eat, like this fodder, cut it down and throw it in front of my animal on Shabbos. I don't think the idolater said Shabbos, but he said, do it today. Otherwise, I'm going to kill you like I killed this Jew. I told him to cook on Shabbos, and he didn't cook for me, so I killed him. So Shama de Veisahu, so the wife of the person, the idolater, had said he had killed, heard this, but also coming to Abaye, came to Abaye to ask him a question. Shahisa, Abaye waited, Klosa Wrigley, Abaye waited 3 festivals. And Rashi says he waited till Pesach, when everybody used to come and gather for Pesach to ask questions of the Talmidei Chachamim. So that's one interpretation Rashi says. Second interpretations was that Tiltza Wrigley, Rashi quotes the Chuvas HaGaonim. This was the day of the yard site of a great rabbi. So that's where people used to go. And Rashi says they would establish a yeshiva by the grave to study Torah. Some point to this Rashi as the source for the idea that on the yard site you don't say Tachnam, because it says on the day of the anniversary of the death, Kohanach Wrigley de Amorayim, became a regel of the Amorayim on the anniversary of the death. So regel you don't say Tachnam, but most poskim don't agree that that's an appropriate behavior on a yard site. Not the idea of not saying Tachnam. So Amarei Rav Ada bar Ava. So Abaye said, "Well, wait." But Rav Ada bar Ava didn't wait. He said, Zil Akami de Rav Yosef, the Charav Sakine. He said, go in front of Rav Yosef because he's sharp like a knife. So Rav Yosef was Abaye's Rebbe. So Rav Ada bar Ava told her, go to Rav Yosef. Azla Kameh, she went in front of Rav Yosef. Pashat Mehamas Nisan. Rav Yosef said, you know what, I could bring you a proof on the following brisa. Because what does the brisa say? The brisa says, Obik Chavim Shayamokar Peros B'Shuk. There was an idolater that was selling fruit in the marketplace, and he was saying, these guys just trying to hack his fruit, he's trying to sell it. So he was saying it's arwa. It doesn't mean that it's arwa. Arwa is the fruit the first 3 years. That's not what he meant. He meant these are baby fruits. They're very, very good. Shawazika, or Rashi gives 2 explanations. Either it's the name of a city, or it means that they were guarded. They were guarded during the sabbatical year. Or Shalneta Ravai, or this is the fruit of the 4th year, which is supposed to be in Jerusalem. So if he's saying this, Lo Amar Kum, you don't have to take him seriously. Lo Niskavein El Ashpiach Mekacho. He's just trying to sell off his purchases. So here also, this guy, this idolater, it says this man died. You can't believe him. He's just trying to get them to, the idolater is just trying to get the people to believe him and take him seriously. So he says, oh, this guy died, but it's not really the case. It's not really the case. So he says you can't believe him. Abiyudin Ish Saidan Amar. So now we have a few incidents. He said, there's once a Jew and idolater walking along the road. And the idolater comes along and it says, he says, oh, terrible. This Jew was with me on the road. He was on the Kivartiv. This Jew was on the road with me and he died and I had to bury him. And they trusted him. So Yisio Ishto, they married him off, because there we say the idolater was speaking Messiah Fitumo. He was speaking innocently. So since he was speaking innocently, we trusted him and we believed him. So a group of people, they were walking along the road to Antokia. to Antioch. He says, oh, terrible, this whole group died, I have to bury them. Again, here too, the idolater was not looking to testify, he was just talking, and so they trusted him. And then the third case was that these people were going to the city of Beitar, which was under a siege at that time. It was in a battle. He says, woe to the people, the 60 people who were going to Beitar, Shemesu, that they died, B'kavartim, Mesius Nishosayim, and they married their wives. So these three incidents where the idolater was all speaking, and we say Messiah Tumo, and we trusted him. Why do we need all three incidents? Why isn't it enough just to tell us one? So the Aruch HaNer tells us that each incident is a greater chiddush than the next one. So that the first incident is we just believe him in a case of one person. It's more likely that his testimony is accurate. In some cases, 60 people. How do you know that all of them were there? He could have just been saying it, or as a group of people. And the third case was in a war, and we had already said in the Mishnah, you don't believe a woman in a time of war because she's maybe just did a dummy law, that she's just imagining it or she's speculating. So therefore, each case is a bigger chiddush than the next. So says the Mishnah, Ma'idim or Ner, if you want to testify, if the person wants to come and testify that somebody died, even if you just saw him by the light of a candle, it's okay, or a Havana by the light of the moon. Messina Pibasko, and also by a heavenly voice. By a heavenly voice. There was once an incident where a person was standing on top of a mountain. No, by the way, excuse me, I just said this wrong. When I said Messina Pibasko, I translated on autopilot without actually thinking about it. Baskol is not a heavenly voice here. Rashi said specifically that the Baskol is Shemo Kol Soekas Ploni Meis V'Lo Adam Mitzalmo. So he heard a voice, but he didn't see the person. It's not a heavenly voice. It's just a voice that he heard. Baskol throughout the Shas means a heavenly voice. In this case, it means he just heard a voice, but he didn't actually see anyone. So that we can rely upon. There's once a guy who was standing on top of the mountain and he said, Ishponi ben poni mimakom poni meis, that such and such a person died. And so he heard this voice. They didn't see somebody there. They married off his wife. Also another incident in Salmon. A guy comes forward, he's shouting, he said, I'm such and such a person, and the snake has bit me, and I'm dying. They couldn't find him. They still allowed his wife to be married off under those circumstances. They said that was sufficient. So Amar Rabbi Bar Shmuel Tana Beis Shammai Omer a Messian al Pibasko. Beis Shammai says you're not allowed to marry somebody on the basis of just hearing a voice. Whereas Beis Hillel says Messian al Pibasko. Beis Hillel says you can. The Gemara says, well, my kamashma masnisini. We already have an anonymous Mishnah, which is basically the equivalent of being Beis Hillel, because we pass like Beis Hillel. We already have the anonymous Mishnah telling us you can marry on the basis of the heavenly voice. So if that's the case, why do we need to repeat it? That's what the Gemara asks. So the Gemara says something interesting. This could be throughout Shas. Why do we need to record the minority opinion? The Gemara says, if you just find an anonymous source that says Emasin al Baskol, that says you don't marry on the basis of this voice, Beis Shammai. That's Beis Shammai's position. It's not Beis Hillel, and so therefore that's what it's telling us. Okay, says the Gemara, they went and they did not find the person from the voice, but they still allowed her to remarry. So the Gemara asks, maybe the voice was the voice of a demon. Maybe it was the voice of a demon. Rabbi Yehuda Maram, no, Sharo Demus Adam. They saw the form of a person. So the Gemara says, well, that's no answer. Inunami Damu. Well, the demons also sometimes have the form of a person. Gemara says, Dechazu Ebeboa. No, they saw a shade. They saw a shadow. Gemara says, Inunami Esu Beboa. Well, guess what? This guy also has a shadow. The demons also have a shadow. The chazlei bebua deboa. He has a shadow of a shadow. The Gemara says, "V'domo didayo isla bebua de bebua." Maybe this demon, this shade, has a shadow of a shadow. Amar Chanina, Amar Yonasan, Shida beboa isla beboa deboa isla. No, so Chanina said. So it says Rabbi Chanina that Yonasan Sheda, either Yonasan the demon or Yonasan who's the expert in demons, he told me that demons have a bua, but they don't have a bua de bua. The bua de babua. De babua. The Dilma Tzara, so the Gemara says, well, maybe it wasn't a shade, but maybe it was her co-wife who was just trying to mess her up. So this is a very important point. We come to the end of Yevamos, and it says this very, very important point. If it's a time of danger, you can write the get and give the get even though you don't know the person. So what is this? Rashi says, if a person's in danger, like for example, a person was sent into a pit, and he said, whoever hears my voice, write a get for my wife so that she's not a guna, so that she doesn't require yibum, and you write it and give it. And we rely on him for all of his words. If he says, I am such and such a person. So too, it's like a time of a danger. Because if we're not going to believe her, you're not going to find another witness, and she'll remain in a guna. So we see from here, b'shas hasakanha kosv v'nosdin aval pi she'em makirin. If it's a time of danger, we can be very lenient so that the woman is not an aguna. It's a very, very important point. We have all these halachos, but the overriding halacha is the idea that we don't want a woman to remain an aguna. Amar Rabbi Akiva Kishiyarati when Nahardai, when I came to Nahardai, we already had this Gemara. We had this Gemara back on a week ago. Kuftes Vav Hamanalv. He says, when I came to Nahardai, when I went to Nahardai to make a leap year, Matzasi Nechemia Ishbeis Deli. I found Nechemia, the man of Deli, and Amroi Shamati Shemasinas Isha Beretz Yisrael. So Nechemia says to Rabbi Akiva, I heard that they don't marry a woman in the land of Israel, P8 Echad. The only one who does it is Yehuda ben Bava. The only one who marries a woman on the basis of one witness is Yehuda ben Bava in the land of Israel. I heard they don't do it. And I responded, I said, yeah, that's true. So he said to me, say to them, Mishmi, say to them in my name, Atem Yodim Shamadina Meshubeshes Begayos. So you know that this country, Nardai, Babylon, is filled with armies. And I have a testimony from Rabbi Gamliel the elder that you marry a woman on the basis of one witness. And when I came and I said these words before Rabbi Gamliel, he was so happy. I would finally have a colleague who supports Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. From as a result of this whole incident, Rabbi Gamliel remembered that when he was younger, that they had killed some people in the Tel Arza. Rabbi Gamliel allowed their wives to marry on the basis of one witness. And so therefore, as a result of this, they established that you can marry somebody. They established that you can marry somebody aid, one witness from another witness, or also mipi eved, or also if a slave comes, or also mipi isha, a woman, mipi shivcha, a female slave. So basically, that all these people are generally speaking not allowed to testify in all areas, but in these areas we allow them to testify. A witness from a witness, a slave, a woman, and a female slave. So Rabbi Lezer and Yeshua disagree. They say, no, you're not allowed to marry a woman on the basis of one witness. Rabbi Akiva says, lo alpi isha, v'lo alpi eved, v'lo alpi shifcha, v'lo alpi krovim. Rabbi Akiva says, no, you cannot marry on the basis of a woman, a slave, a maid, a Canaanite slave, or on the basis of relatives. But Rabbi Akiva presumably seems to allow on the basis of one witness. So Gemara says, "V'savar Rabbi Akiva al pi isha lo." Does Rabbi Akiva really say you can't marry a woman on the basis of one witness? Well, Tanya says the Bride Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Akiva Nishanem Menes Lavigita Mikal V'Chomer. So we go into the Bride Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says the name of Rabbi Akiva, and then a woman is believed to bring her get from Mikal V'Chomer. She says from overseas, we need her to say something, so that she needs to say it was written and sealed before me, that even Adam Kasher needs to say this. So nevertheless, since she's testifying, Rabbi Akiva says, and he says a woman is believed to bring her get, and it's a kal v'chomer, and he proves it from a kal v'chomer. And what's his logical argument? Even those 5 women who are not believed to say that her husband has died, we learned about these 5 women who we say that they're not believed to say that this woman has died because they were worried they're trying to mess them up. We learned who these women were. This was on, I think, on Kuf Yud Zayin. That who are these 5 women? These women were her mother-in-law, the daughter of her mother-in-law, her co-wife, her Yevimta, the daughter of her husband. All these women are not believed to testify, but nevertheless, all of them could bring the get. They were allowed to bring the divorce of these women. And what's the reason? Because the bringing of the get is not testimony, and they were kosher for it. And even though the person who brings the get has to say it was written and signed before me, that's not really testimony, because we're really relying upon the get and not the testimony. So therefore, this woman, this woman who's believed to say that her husband has died, for sure she should be allowed to bring her get. So we see from here, but Isha Bahama Mehemne, we see from the statement of Rabbi Akiva that he says those 5 women are not believed to say, they're not believed to say that the husband died, but a regular woman, other than those 5 women, they are believed. So why do you say Rabbi Akiva says a woman is not believed? So it's not a difficulty. Basically, they change their mind. That when they bring in our mission, Rabbi Akiva says that you're not allowed to marry a woman on the basis of a testimony. That was prior to them establishing that they could trust a woman and accept her testimony. Before Rabbi Akiva came back and said what Nehemiah Ishtui said in the name of Rabbi Gamliel, that he said that Rabbi Gamliel allowed them to marry. So and that was prior to it. And after it, he said, oh, you can marry on the basis of a woman's testimony. So they said to Rabbi Akiva, there was an incident with Bnei Levi, either people like the sons of Levi or maybe from the tribe of Levi. They went to Tzoar, city of the Tamarim. One of them was sick. They brought him to a hotel. He said to the woman innkeeper, where's our buddy? She responded to them, Mace, he died and I had to bury him. They see us Ishto, and they on this basis they allowed his wife to remarry. And Velote Kohanas Kampundakis, and a Jewish woman, a Kohen's daughter or wife, of course, she's going to be as valuable as the Pundakis, just like the Pundakis is believed, so too she is. So Rabbi Akiva responded to them, Pundakis, Ne'emanis, Pundakis, Ne'emanis. When she'll be like the Pundakis, she'll believe. Pundakis, the Pundakis didn't just testify; she had evidence. She had a sign. She had a stick. She had a sack. She brought out his Torah scroll. That obviously would never have abandoned his Torah scroll. So clearly he's dead. So that's when she's believed. When she's like the Pundakis, when she has corroborating evidence, and she's Mesicho Fituma. So the Gemara explains, my Grius of the Pundakis, why do we say that the Pundakis wouldn't be believed? So what it mean to say, why is she worse than all the other Jewish women? So the Gemara says, Amrav Kahana, Pundakis Ovedis Kochalim Haisa. Pundakis was not Jewish. Umasicho Fituma. And she was just speaking innocently. So she was just speaking innocently because she said, "Look, here's his staff, and here's his stick and that's what I buried him with. And this is the grave that I buried him in." She was just speaking innocently, and she was an idolater, and that's why we believe her, because she was speaking innocently. Mara says, how can you say she was speaking innocently? The rabbis came back, the sons of Levi came back, and they said, where's our buddy? Mara said, no, because they saw her crying, they said, where's our friend? That's why. She said, he died and I buried him. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbana Maisa Ba'adam Echad Shabara Ayid Al Isha B'fnei Rabbi Tarfon. There was once a person who came to testify about a woman in front of Rabbi Tarfon. Amar lo, Rabbi Tarfon said to him, how do you know that this man has died and this woman can remarry? Amar ani v'hu ayinu hochem b'derech. We were both walking along the road. V'radav acharenu gayis, and an army ran after us. V'nitla b'yuchor shel zayis, and he got caught on an olive branch, a peshacho, and he broke it. V'yichziras agayis lachorav, and he beat back the army. And Amartilo Aryeh, and I said to him, Aryeh, Yasher Kocha, good job, Aryeh. He said, how do you know my name is Aryeh? That's what they call me in my city. So, and what do they call me? They call me Yochanan bar Rabbi Yonasan Aryeh de Mikfar Shichya. That's what they call me. My name is Aryeh. A few days later, he got sick and died. Meisi Rabbi Tarfon and Sishto. Rabbi Tarfon allowed, on this basis, Aryeh's wife to get married. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Tarfon why didn't Rabbi Tarfon require cross-examination of the witness, which is called Drisha v'Chakira? Rashi says, B'dikos, really cross-examination, a covenant threat to make sure he's telling the truth. The Gemara says, Vatanya, we have another version of the story. This was another person who came for Rabbi Tarfon to testify. And he should testify a man dies so a woman can marry. How do you know this testimony? And he said, he said, we were walking along. We found this army was chasing us. This time we found a fig tree. And he took the branch and he beat them back. And Martigo Yashakocha, good job, This is also a little version. He said, good job that you know my name. That's what they call me in my town. He got sick and died. And Amar, well, Rabbi Tarfon said to him, this time, according to this version of the Bride, so Rabbi Tarfon didn't accept it right. He say, then you tell me his name was Yochanan ben Yonasan the Mikfar Shechya Aryeh, that the name of the village was Aryeh. I'm like, whoa, no. So he said, no, I didn't say that. Yochanan ben Yonasan Aryeh the Mikfar Shechya. You know, his name was Aryeh. Rabbi Tarfon asked him 2 or 3 times. Every time the guy said the same thing. They see Rabbi Tarfon and Sishto. On this basis, Rabbi Tarfon allowed his wife to remarry. So you see, Rabbi Tarfon does require this cross-examination in this case. So why do we say in the other source he didn't? So the Gemara says, Tanayi, Machukas Tanayim. Tanya, Aim Bodkin, whether or not you require Drisha v'Chakira is Machokas Tanaim. Tanya in Bodkin Edi Nashim B'Drisha v'Chakira. Kiva says that if it's a case of allowing a woman to remarry, you don't check them with Drisha v'Chakira. You don't do this cross-examination. And Tarfon says Bodkin, you do. And they're arguing about what Rabbi Chanina taught, because he said, biblically speaking, biblically speaking, everybody should require Drisha v'Chakira, monetary and capital cases. As it states, Mishpat echad yerochem, one judgment shall be for you. And since we know by capital cases, it says v'darash v'chakarta, so it should be the same law with respect to Dine Mamanos, the monetary law. But Matam Amru Dine Mamanos ain't Drisha v'Chakira. Why is it we don't require Drisha v'Chakira by a monetary matter? We don't want to disincentivize people from doing loans. We want people to lend money. And if they're going to be cross-examined, their witnesses are going to be put through the ringer. They're not going to come and testify to help them get their money back. So they'll say, I don't need this hassle. Remember, they couldn't charge interest in those days. Today also you can't charge interest, but today we know a lot of heterim to work it. So anyway, so that's why they stopped doing Drisha v'Chakira on monetary matters. They uprooted it because they saw a different mitzvah from the Torah is not being kept, the idea that you're supposed to lend money. What's the nature of the argument here between Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva says, since there's a ksuva for that she wants to take, it's like a monetary matter. It's not the same thing though, because once they made the gzera that the money that you don't do Drisha v'Chakira, so because you might not come to lend money. So even though ksuba is not a loan, it's still a monetary matter. So we extend this gzera there. Others say no. You're allowing a married woman. It's like a capital case because otherwise she could be involved with a situation of adultery. So that's the dispute. And now we finish this Gemara in the same way that four other Gemaros end. What are the four Gemaros? Brachos, Nazir, Yevamos, Ukrisos. They all end Banayach. That's how you remember Banayach. Brachos, Nazir, Yevamos, Ukrisos. All end with this phrase. And Amar Rabbi Lazar Mechanina, Talmidei Chachamim Marvim Shalom Ba'om. Torah scholars increase peace in the world, as it says, Chol Banayach, Nidei Hashem, Rav Shalom Banayach. Or your children are the students of God, and Rav Shalom Banayach, and your children increase great peace in the world. We're going to complete this siyum. We're going to do this stuff again at 8:00, and God willing, we'll make a siyum for it on Shabbos Kodesh. And a big shkoyach to everyone. A big shkoyach.